The galaxy had known war before, but nothing compared to the devastation brought by the three alien warlords who now threatened humanity's very existence. Each warlord came from a different corner of the galaxy, and each had their own twisted motive for their merciless assault on humankind. The first of these was Graxos, the cybernetic overlord of Zynar Prime, a planet famed for its advanced technology and ruthless augmentation practices. Graxos, with half his body made of cold, gleaming metal, sought nothing less than to absorb humanity's ingenuity and use it to perfect his own race's evolution. The second warlord, Zergal, hailed from the unforgiving world of Threxia. Towering over any opponent, his species had been bioengineered to be living weapons. Unlike Graxos, who preferred the cold efficiency of machines, Zergal reveled in the primal chaos of close combat. His bloodthirst was insatiable, and every human he crushed beneath his fist was another trophy in his mind. The third, and perhaps most dangerous of all, was General Kravok. He commanded no grand armies and wore no battle scars. Instead, Kravok's strength lay in his unparalleled intellect and mastery of psychological warfare. From his fortress on the distant planet of Vathros, he manipulated human governments, turned allies into enemies, and sowed discord wherever he could. To him, war was a game, and he played it masterfully, with humans as his unwitting pawns. Every move, every calculated strike, was designed to break their spirit before he moved in for the final kill. As these three warlords spread terror across the stars, humanity was left reeling, struggling to defend itself against enemies who fought with different tactics and different weapons. On Graxos' command, entire cities were reduced to smoldering wreckage, their advanced defenses hacked and overridden. Zergal's forces stormed planetary outposts, ripping through soldiers like they were paper. And Kravok, from the shadows, whispered promises of false hope to human leaders, only to betray them at their most vulnerable moments. Within months, the human race was on the brink of extinction, cornered and outmatched by a trio of beings who seemed to thrive on their destruction. The turning point came when a single transmission reached Earth, a last-ditch message from the shattered colony on Epsilon Eridani. In it, a survivor described the horrors unleashed by the warlords and pleaded for aid, though there was little hope left to offer. Humanity's leaders convened, desperate to find a solution, knowing that conventional military might have failed them. The Galactic Council, as usual, turned a blind eye. To them, humanity was a nuisance, a young species whose troubles weren't worth the effort of intervention. But in humanity's darkest hour, a decision was made, a plan as bold as it was dangerous. Earth had one last weapon, something developed in secret, hidden even from the Council. It wasn't a soldier nor a fleet, but something far more relentless, an assassin, built for a single purpose. This machine, known only as the Terminator, was programmed with one directive: eliminate the warlords one by one, and make them pay for every human life they had taken. Emotionless, tireless, and utterly merciless, the Terminator was humanity's last hope. The mission was clear. Graxos, Zergal, and Kravok would be hunted down, executed in the streets of their own worlds, and dragged before the eyes of their people as a warning. The warlords had underestimated humanity. They had seen humans as weak, divided, and easily broken. But now, they would face something far worse than they had ever anticipated, a force that would not stop, would not negotiate, and would not rest until their reign of terror was over. As the Terminator's ship departed from Earth, humanity held its breath. There was no turning back now. This was their final gamble, a brutal retaliation for the slaughter of millions. No longer would humanity cower under the might of alien tyrants. The warlords had started this war, but now they would learn, in the most ruthless way possible, that humanity was not to be trifled with. In the vast silence of space, as the Terminator's ship hurtled toward its first target, the universe seemed to hold its breath. The hunt had begun, and with it, the warlords' days were numbered. The Terminator's arrival on Zynar Prime was a silent one. The planet was a fortress of steel and glass, its skyline dominated by towering spires that seemed to pierce the heavens. This was Graxo's domain, an empire built on the bones of those he had conquered. The cybernetic overlord believed himself untouchable here, protected by layers of technological defenses, but he had never faced a predator like this. The Terminator, with no need for stealth or subterfuge, descended through the atmosphere with mechanical precision, its landing unnoticed by the planet's countless surveillance systems. It had already begun its deadly work. Graxos, ensconced in his command citadel, received the first reports with casual disinterest. A series of minor systems had gone offline, a routine malfunction, perhaps the result of a power surge. But as more reports came in, the situation became clear. Something was cutting through Scifi Prime's defenses. Panic spread among his soldiers and technicians. But Graxos remained calm, his augmented mind calculating possibilities with cold efficiency. After all, no organic force could breach the impenetrable layers of protection he had spent years perfecting. But this was no organic force. The Terminator moved through the city like a shadow, cutting down any who stood in its path. Security drones, automated turrets, and heavily armed patrols were systematically dismantled with an efficiency that bordered on terrifying. Every step the Terminator took was precise, its purpose singular. It had one target, and nothing would stand in its way. Graxos, finally realizing the gravity of the situation, initiated his personal guard, a cadre of elite cybernetic warriors, each equipped with advanced weaponry and enhanced reflexes. They were his finest creations, programmed to fight with the same cold logic that governed their master. But the Terminator wasn't just a machine. It was a perfect blend of human ingenuity and unyielding design. It adapted, it anticipated, and it exploited weaknesses in the cybernetic soldiers that even their creator had not foreseen. The battle inside Graxo's citadel was brief, brutal, and one-sided. The Terminator dispatched the guards with ruthless efficiency, neutralizing their attacks before they could even react. Graxos, watching from his throne of metal and circuitry, finally felt something he hadn't experienced in years: fear. He activated every defense system in his fortress, sending torrents of energy blasts, laser grids, and sonic disruptors toward the intruder. But the Terminator was already inside, moving closer and scathed. In his final moments, Graxos attempted to reason with the machine. His augmented voice, a blend of human and synthetic, offered power, alliances, anything that could halt the inevitable. But the Terminator had no interest in deals. Its orders were clear, and its mission absolute. Graxos barely had time to register the cold, unblinking gaze of his executioner before his life was extinguished in a single, calculated strike. The Overlord's body, now a lifeless heap of metal and flesh, was dragged through the Citadel's halls, a final humiliation for a creature who had believed himself invincible. The message was clear. The hunt had begun, and no warlord was safe. The next target was Zergal, the brood of Threxia. Unlike the technologically advanced world of Scifi Prime, Threxia was a savage planet, its dense jungles teeming with deadly creatures and hostile terrain. Zergal, however, thrived in this chaos. His species had been designed for battle, their bodies massive, covered in hardened armor, and capable of immense physical destruction. To him, combat was life. He led his legions with primal fury, crushing enemies with sheer force. But the arrival of the Terminator was different from any challenge he had faced before. Zergal was no strategist, relying on brute strength and overwhelming numbers to win his battles. When word reached him that an unknown enemy had infiltrated his planet, cutting down his soldiers with ease, he laughed. "Send more warriors," he barked to his lieutenants, confident that no single opponent could stand against his armies. However, the jungle echoed with the sounds of battle as the Terminator made its way through the dense undergrowth, systematically eliminating everything in its path. Zergal's forces, bred for close combat, tried to swarm the machine, but every attempt was met with precise, calculated death. The Terminator used the environment to its advantage, adapting to the harsh conditions of Threxia and turning the planet's very nature against its inhabitants. When the Terminator finally reached Zergal's stronghold, the Warlord, still confident in his raw strength, faced the machine head-on. Their battle was a clash of titans. Zergal's sheer power against the Terminator's relentless precision. The Warlord's massive fist shattered trees, crushed boulders, and shook the ground with every strike. But none of it was enough. The Terminator, smaller and quicker, dodged each blow, countering with strikes that broke through even Zergal's thick armor. With a final, decisive move, the machine brought the mighty Warlord to his knees. Zergal, gasping for breath, roared in defiance even as his vision darkened. The Terminator, unmoved, delivered the killing blow and dragged the Warlord's colossal body through the jungle, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Just as it had done with Graxos, the Terminator made sure the body of its victim was seen, a clear message to anyone who dared defy humanity. 2 Warlords had fallen. Only one remained. With Graxos and Zergal both slain, the galaxy held its breath for what would come next. Only one Warlord remained, General Kravok, the most cunning of the trio and the most elusive. His fortress on Vathros was not built of steel and stone, but of secrets, manipulation, and deception. While Graxos had relied on technology and Zergal on brute force, Kravok's strength lay in the shadows. He had already predicted the fall of his counterparts, but unlike them, he would not be caught unaware. He would face the Terminator on his own terms. As the Terminator's ship approached Vathros, Kravok's eyes scanned the incoming vessel from the safety of his command center. So, the humans send their machine assassin, he muttered to himself, a twisted smile curling his lips. This would not be a contest of strength or technology. Kravok had spent decades mastering psychological warfare, and this, he believed, would be his ultimate weapon against the cold efficiency of the Terminator. His fortress was equipped with countless traps, illusions, and false signals, designed to confuse, mislead, and most of all, disorient any intruder. But the Terminator was no ordinary enemy. As the ship touched down on the barren, rocky surface of Vathros, the Terminator stepped out into a world shrouded in fog. The landscape was desolate, a wasteland filled with jagged cliffs and treacherous ravines. But the machine's sensors quickly analyzed the environment, mapping every detail. It began its march toward the fortress, unyielding, just as it had done before. However, as it neared the structure, the terrain began to shift. Holograms flickered to life, creating walls where there were none, opening chasms that led to nowhere. Kravok watched from his command room, confident that his web of deceptions would keep the assassin at bay. But the Terminator, designed to adapt and overcome, processed each illusion in real time. With machine precision, it cut through the holograms and bypassed Kravok's carefully laid traps. The closer it got to the fortress, the more desperate Kravok became. He flooded the area with false signals, jamming frequencies and flooding the air with static. Yet, nothing stopped the machine's advance. The Terminator's logic was simple. Find the target, eliminate the target. Nothing else mattered. Inside the fortress, Kravok could feel his carefully controlled grip on the situation slipping. His mind raced through scenarios, calculating new ways to outwit the assassin. But deep down, he knew the truth. This was no ordinary foe. It was relentless. It could not be bargained with or reasoned into retreat. And for the first time in his life, Kravok found himself staring into the face of inevitability. As the Terminator breached the final defenses and entered the fortress, Kravok stood alone in the Grand Hall, a vast room filled with the holographic displays of his victories. "So, you've come at last," Kravok said, his voice calm but his eyes betraying the fear creeping into his thoughts. The Terminator said nothing. It advanced slowly, each step echoing through the empty chamber. Kravok, ever the strategist, attempted to buy time. "You know, humanity could use someone like me," he began, his voice smooth, his posture shifting from defiant to conciliatory. "I can be of service to your people. We are not so different, you and I. We both seek victory. We both." The Terminator's cold, unblinking gaze offered no response. It raised its weapon, its mission clear. Kravok's words faltered. He had manipulated governments, armies, even entire species, but now he stood powerless before a machine that could not be swayed. In one swift motion, the Terminator fired, and Kravok's reign of terror came to an end, his lifeless body collapsing to the floor. Like the others, his corpse was dragged to the halls of his own fortress, silent, motionless, and defeated. The galaxy, once held in the grip of fear by 3 ruthless warlords, was free. The Terminator's mission was complete, and humanity had its vengeance. Each of the warlords had been punished in the most brutal and public way possible, their bodies left as a reminder to any who might consider challenging humanity again. As the Terminator returned to its ship, the fog of Vathros lifted, revealing the destruction left in its wake. Across the stars, word spread quickly. The message was simple. Humanity would not be broken. The once feared warlords who had terrorized human worlds were now nothing more than grim trophies in the aftermath of the Terminator's hunt. The machine, programmed only for its mission, had no understanding of victory. It would return to its creators, await its next orders, and stand ready should humanity ever call upon it again. For now, the galaxy was silent, the terror that had once spread across human worlds extinguished by the cold efficiency of the Terminator. And though the warlords were dead, the memory of their reign of terror would linger, an eternal reminder that when humanity was pushed to the brink, it fought back with a vengeance that no one, not even the most powerful beings in the galaxy, could withstand.